Sorry, it's been a while. I'm kinda going through some stuff personally. But that's neither here nor there. I promise videos will be coming consistently soon-ish. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hunters, wanderers of the forest, gather round now, shall ye? Hear of your goddess, whose hunts the mountains shake and the seas foam at, who strikes down foes with arrows and protects the chaste in her charge. Great Artemis, daughter of Leto. But how strong is she? This is surprisingly difficult. Artemis, as many of you know, is the Greek goddess of the hunt, later in Roman times syncretized with the Roman goddess of the hunt Diana, and conflated with Selene. Nothing really is gained for Artemis in these conflations except for maybe the fact Selene is the embodiment of the moon. But conflating those two also removes something vital to Artemis, as Selene had her way with Endymion. That's a story for a different day. So let's get into it. Artemis, for the most part, is the embodiment of the savage wilderness. She exists more so as a fringe, not to be trifled with, than an active force in the mythology with many encounters. But the encounters she does have are against quite imposing opposition. Let's begin with her slaying of the giant Tityos. Tityos was a giant, and a powerful one, whose body, when laying down, sprawled over 9 acres, which would occupy roughly 2 modern city blocks in size, and she and Apollo together killed him with a single shot each, thus giving the low end of the feat and those building levels of attack potency to a more logical city block level of destructive capacity in a shot from her bow. Next comes the giant Orion, who for some reason gets attributed to being a lover of Artemis, when most mythology I could find has him more as a friendly rival, though one that seems problematic. Orion is often described as being massive, as either a son of Gaia or of Poseidon, and in some tellings proves to be dangerous because he threatens to hunt all the beasts of the earth, or claims to be a better hunter than Artemis, or attempts to assault those that Artemis holds dear, or just gets the classic brotherly, "Hey sis, bet you can't hit that dot on the horizon with a shot," from Apollo. Regardless, this feat should probably align with that scaling of Tityos, as Orion too is described as someone of having gigantic proportions. The most impressive of these giant slaying feats, however, come during the Gigantomachia, a time when giants attempted to overthrow Olympus. And while gods like Poseidon are throwing islands to kill giants, as seen in my Poseidon video, and Heracles is shooting them with arrows dipped in Hydra blood, Athena and her brother Apollo are shooting all of the giants with just their normal arrows. The fact it takes islands being thrown to stop these giants really gives Artemis and Apollo some scaling to that small city to island level that I gave to Poseidon, as it's literally in the same paragraph that Poseidon throws an island, and Athena throws an island. Artemis is described as killing the giant Gratian. Just killing these giants scale her anywhere from those city block to city levels on the low end, all the way up to solidly island level at the high end, with a single arrow being comparable to the slaying feats done by Poseidon and Athena. In a Homeric hymn to her, she is attested to exceeding beasts whose cries shake mountains and forests, akin to earthquakes. Note, I'm not saying this scaling aligns, but at a minimum it does reinforce those island levels of scaling, and raises potential small country levels of potency at a high end, considering the land masses that would be shaking. But that's neither here nor there. Now, this does not mean her arrows can actively destroy these areas, just inflict enough damage to beings that have been struck with or have thrown hands with beings that can destroy these areas far more easily. She's not blowing up a city by shooting a single arrow. She may kill everyone in that city with an arrow, but not destroy it in one shot. Durability, again, is a weird thing for Greek gods. They are immortal, unkillable, and timeless, but they can be hurt. It happens numerous times, including to Artemis, when she gets kind of dog-walked by Hera during the Trojan War, and to Zeus in his first encounter with Typhon, who stole his ligaments. So exceeding her durability just requires strength greater than her own, which, based on her clashings, would probably be north of those city to mountain level metrics, with the high end, of course, being island level, further backed up by the fact that her brother, who was always categorized as an equal, if not just slightly better, did not wish to fight Poseidon, whose strength tops those levels. And speed, well, speed's always a pain with these videos. I could not find anything for Artemis. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, but seeing as this is mythology, that could just be the case that there's not many. Assumedly, though, she can at least avoid thrown spears, as shown by her encounters with the Aloidae, and fleeing Hera from a previously established beating. She moved as a dove, avoiding a falcon, both of which get those far higher than superhuman speeds exceeding 60 miles per hour, likely by an unquantifiably high degree, as Olympus, where she fled to, is not really on the same plane of existence as the rest of the world, often described as being a distance as far as the Earth from the sky. It kind of gets wonky there, but her only quantifiable speed that I could find is that comparison to a dove avoiding a falcon. Sorry about that. Now, unlike speed, Artemis's abilities are well attested. Her skill with a bow is almost unmatched in her mythology, from slaying giants to the hymns dedicated to her, and even Niobe's children being killed, all providing great examples of finesse and efficiency, tying her with Apollo in skill. On top of that, Artemis has several instances of changing shape. First her own, as with the story of the Aloidae, as she transformed herself into a deer, then the transformation of others. The most famous example of that being of Actaeon into the form of a deer to be torn apart by his own dogs, but Callisto, Cyrene, the hunter Meleager's sisters, and many of her other worshippers have been changed into various game animals, fowl, and even a spring of water. Being a goddess of the wilderness, Artemis also has the ability to conjure forth monstrous beasts that even some of the mightiest heroes of the day struggle against. The boar of Calydon required a small army of Greek heroes to hunt, and at Metos's wedding, she filled his bridal chamber with snakes, both instances being because someone forgot to pay her proper homage. Atop that, and quite common among her fellow Olympians, Artemis even has the ability to manipulate the senses of those around her, driving madness into them and essentially deriving their course of action, as she did with Proteus, who swore himself a better hunter than herself. Great move, by the way, and immune to fire. So she sent him mad and led him into flames, where he died. Kinda messed up. Artemis, at least to my understanding, scales into those city block levels of attack potency on the low end, to a far more consistent island level on the high end, able to match and kill giants that require such efforts to slay. She's immune to disease, death, and age, and can take attacks comparable to her damage output, and keep going. Tireless, like a relentless huntress, limited by the fact there are greater threats in her pantheon. She has a slew of trick arrows up her sleeve that can steal one's form or their senses, all wrapping up to be among the most frightening figures in her mythology, the wilderness personified. So keep honor in your hearts, for she who guides the wilderness, for the arrows that allow hunters to survive are the same arrows that make sure they do not return. The one protecting the men and women of the woods from the maws of lions is also the one who sends them. As always, thanks for watching. Stay hydrated and be good people.